Payment aggregators are the invisible backbone of the digital payment structure in India. Every time, whenever you are swiping a card or you are making an online payment, a payment aggregator is silently involved in the particular transaction, working hard in the background. So RBI has recently issued a brand new master direction on the payment aggregator, right? Regulation of the Payment Aggregator Direction 2025. In this video, we are going to discuss about these directions. So let's start the discussion. Here is the table of content. We can see that this particular direction is divided into 6 major parts. First, we are having the preliminary discussion related to effective date, short title, applicability, and so many definitions in this particular master direction. Second one is related to the authorization and the capital requirement. Third one is related to conduct of payment aggregator business, how to govern it, in case of any disputes, how to manage it, and a lot more things. Fourth one is KYC and due diligence. Fifth one is the settlement of funds and escrow accounts. And sixth one is the repeal provision and the savings. So guys, can be important for your examination. There are so many limits as well in this particular master direction, right? And because it is a hot topic of September 2025 month, just before your examination, just close to 1 month before your examination, so can be important for your examination. Okay, so we'll be having a detailed discussion related to this particular master direction. First, if I talk about preliminary, we all know the short title of this particular master direction: RBI Regulation of the Payment Aggregator. How RBI is going to regulate the Payment Aggregator Directions 2025, and the effective date is immediately, right now. Okay, immediately. The effective date is immediately unless otherwise specified. If I talk about the applicability, all the banks are need to apply this particular direction, and non-banks who are payment aggregators, if you are an authorized dealer bank and a scheduled commercial bank who is engaged in the PA entities, payment aggregator entities, you are required to comply with this particular direction. So the applicability of this particular direction is, I can say, broad, right? So please do it very well. I'll be also telling you what you can, what things you can have a, I can say what things we can cover in a detailed manner, or specific areas in which we can have a good amount of focus, right? So here we can see the preliminary chapter, effective immediately, and the applicability part that we just discussed. The very first question is, sir, what is a payment aggregator? First, you need to know what is a payment aggregator, why we need a payment aggregator, right? Why do we need a payment aggregator? So here is a merchant, a shopkeeper, I can say, a businessman, and there are so many customers, right? There are so many customers. Whenever you are making a payment to a merchant, whenever the customers are making payment to the merchant, now customers are having different bank account, merchants are also having different bank accounts. There is a need of a payment aggregator in between. There is a need of a payment aggregator in between to handle the settlement process end to end. Okay, to handle the payment process end to end. So an entity, payment aggregator is an entity that is facilitating the aggregation of payment, and that's what the name is, payment aggregator. Whatever you are receiving the payments, whatever payments you are getting from the customers, it is a payment aggregator. This person is aggregating the payments. So an entity that facilitates the aggregation of payment made by the customers to the merchants through one or more payment channels. So maybe it can be a physical channel, it can be virtual, right? Maybe a customer is swiping the card, or it is an online payment using any platform, using any banking service for the purchase of obviously goods, for the purchase of any kind of service or investment product, and subsequently settles the collected fund to such merchants, right? So basically it's a settlement process, and payment aggregators are a crucial part of the settlement process here, right? They are aggregating all the payments that the customers are making to the merchant, and that's what the main purpose is. Now payment aggregators are of 3 types. First one is the physical, second one is the online, and third one is the cross border. So as the name says it all, physical payment aggregator is nothing but they are aggregating payments that are facilitating transactions where both the acceptance device and the payment instruments are physically present in close proximity. So let's suppose I went to a shop for buying this t-shirt. I just swipe my card. My card is the payment instrument here. I can say I just swipe my credit card. So that's the payment instrument. And there was a device in which I swapped the card, right? In which I am swiping the card, right? So that's the acceptance device. Now merchants can have a device which is being provided by the banks, by any kind of payment aggregator, right? So there is an acceptance device, there is a payment instrument, and they are in close proximity. They are in close proximity. That's a physical kind of transaction. And we call it payment aggregator physical, right? Where the acceptance device and the payment instruments are physically present in a close proximity while making the transaction. So even if I am just not swiping, but there is a touch system nowadays, right? Based on the Wi-Fi, the transaction takes place, right? So even if we don't swipe, we are keeping the card in close proximity with that machine, that acceptance device, still the transaction will happen. So that's why they have very carefully written here close proximity, because it's not like that you will be always swiping the card. Sometimes even if you are closely proximate to a particular machinery, the transaction can also happen, right? So that is your payment aggregator physical. If I talk about the online, the payment aggregator is facilitating the transaction where the acceptance device and the payment instruments are not present in close proximity. Say for example, I'm shopping for this t-shirt on Amazon, on Flipkart, on Myntra. How will I pay the money? Whenever I'll paying the money, let's suppose I'm paying the money through my credit card. Again, in both the cases, I'm paying the money through credit card. However, in the first case, my payment instrument was in a close proximity. And now because I'm paying online, I'm just at my home and I'm making a payment to someone who is sitting in Mumbai or Delhi or anywhere in the world. That's called as PA online, because my payment instrument, my credit card, and the actual acceptance device is not at all in the close proximity, That's a payment aggregator online. And cross-border, as the name says it all, they are facilitating the inward transaction and outward transaction. And as the name says it all, cross-border, that means they are doing transaction cross borders only, right? So the facilitation of the aggregation of the transaction, cross-border payments to the current account transactions, not prohibited by FEMA, right? Whenever you are making a cross-border transaction or foreign transaction, you need to take the approval of FEMA. So some things are already there in the non-prohibited sector of FEMA. So you can easily use the payment aggregator cross-border platform for that. Now there can be inward transaction. Maybe you are receiving dollars. There can be outward transaction. Maybe you are paying INR to someone outside the country. That's nothing but cross-border entities, right? Payment aggregator cross-border. So I have given you the key definitions in a crisp manner as well. So everything is there. Definitions in the crisp manner. Definition in the detailed format I have again explained directly from the circular as well, right? And what is payment gateway? Now they are just providing a tech infrastructure. They are not at all handling the fund. However, the payment aggregators are actually handling the fund. Right? So you guys must have heard about the Razorpay, right? So entities like Razorpay, they are facilitating the transaction basically, right? They are facilitating the transaction. There are some more definitions like COD. I think COD मुझसे ज़्यादा आप लोगों को समझ में आता है. Cash on delivery, right? We are just paying the legal tender. That means we are just paying the currency and we are taking the goods and services, right? That's what COD is all about. Then we have contact point verification, which is CPV. Physical verification of the address or the place of business of the merchant. Let's suppose a merchant is based out of Delhi, right? The businessman is based out of Delhi. Now I don't know the person who I'm paying, right? I'm paying to that person which is doing the business in Delhi. Now payment aggregators, what they are doing is they are also involved in CPV, which is contact point verification. A agent of the payment aggregator will physically go to the merchant's place and will physically verify the address of that particular merchant so that fraud cases are minimized, right? E-commerce, you all know, buying and selling of goods and services by using a digital platform, right? using a digital platform, using an electronic network. Flipkart, Amazon, eBay, Alibaba, they all are examples of e-commerce only. Inward transaction. Foreign exchange is flowing into our country. Foreign exchange is flowing in our country. There is an inflow. Outflow. The money is going out of the country, right? That's what outward transaction is, involving outflow of the foreign exchange. Whenever the foreign exchange is going out of our country, that's outflow. When it's coming in, that's an inward transaction. Marketplace. An e-commerce entity which provides an information technology platform. Now, if an e-commerce entity is providing an IT platform on a digital network facilitating transaction between buyer and seller, so can I say that Amazon is nothing but an e-commerce company, but they have given Amazon.com or Amazon.in as a marketplace, right? Governance e-marketplace, GEM, that's also a marketplace where the buyer and seller can get into a particular transaction of buying or selling any kind of goods, right, or services. Crucial part. Chapter 2, authorization and capital requirement. So chapter 2 is dealing with authorization and the capital requirement. What is the authorization? Bank do not need any kind of prior authorization. However, if a non-bank payment aggregator, if there is a non-bank payment aggregator, that entity is not a bank, it's a payment aggregator. Now they need to first apply for the NOC, non-objection certificate. Once they are done with the NOC, they can go to the Pravah portal of RBI within 45 days of the NOC, and they need to apply for the payment aggregator status on the Pravah portal of RBI. That's compulsory. Non-bank payment aggregator must be an Indian company. Again, if you are a non-bank payment aggregator, you need to be an Indian company under the Companies Act 2013. You cannot be a partnership firm, you cannot be a sole proprietorship, right? You cannot be any other kind of entity. You need to be a company, right? That's compulsory. Those entities who are already doing the payment aggregator physical only, they need to apply by 31st December 2025. That's a timeline. Or you can you need to wind up your business of payment aggregator. You cannot continue the business of payment aggregator P only. You need to wind it up by 28th of February 2026 if you are not going to apply by 31st December 2025. So it's a complete take it or leave it situation, right? Here you can have a look in the circular as well. I have highlighted all the points that I am stating, right? The most crucial part of this particular circular is here, capital requirement. You need to have 15 crore net worth at application. You need to at least have a 15 crore net worth, right? Any entity seeking authorization to commence its own payment aggregator business. Let's suppose I want to start my own business of payment aggregator. I want to become a payment aggregator. I need a net worth capital requirement of at least 15 crore at the time of application. Just at the time of application. At the end of the third year, it should be minimum 25 crore net worth, right? So whenever I am making the application, it will be fine even if I do have a capital of 15 crore, net worth of 15 crore. However, by the end of the third year, I need to hit at least 25 crore net worth, right? That's the bare minimum requirement. Very, very important for your upcoming examination, RBI Grade B 2025. Must be maintained continuously. Obviously, you need to have a continuity in terms of your net worth of 15 crore and 25 crore respectively. Now you are calculating the net worth, then you can include compulsorily convertible preference shares. Compulsorily convertible preference shares, we have multiple times discussed about these shares. They are your preference shares. Why? Because they are compulsorily convertible. In the near future, they are going to become your equity share capital, right? They are compulsorily convertible preference shares. Definitely they will turn to equity only, right? Because they are compulsorily convertible. So that's why let's treat it at par with equity, and you are good to include them in the net worth calculation, but you need to exclude the deferred tax asset, right? So that's a common practice. Whenever we are calculating the net worth, we are following this, right? We are following this. Now entities with FDI must need to comply with the FDI policy as well, right? So this particular capital requirement can be important for your examination. Please do remember 15 crore whenever you are starting the business, when you are making the application, 25 crore at the end of the third year. Okay, so that's the bare minimum capital requirement. If I talk about the conduct of the payment aggregator business, it should be professionally managed, right? It should be professionally managed. The governance part, the most crucial part. Why? Because you are dealing with the money, right? You are dealing with the money. You are the payment aggregator. You need to have a strong governance part, right? So it should be a professionally managed governance. Promoters, directors must need to meet the fit and proper criteria, right? They need to have financial integrity, good reputation and character, honesty behavior, plus the person has not incurred any kind of disqualification. So there is a list of disqualification which is generally everywhere in the acts, right? So they have clearly stated the disqualification criteria as well. The person who are your promoters, who are your directors cannot be disqualified because of these reasons that are stated here, right? Then if I talk about the dispute management, in case of any disputes, you need to have a mechanism for any kind of failed transaction. Let's suppose I paid 1000 rupees for buying a t-shirt and the transaction got failed. Now there should be a mechanism at the payment aggregator how we need to deal with the failed transactions, how to process returns, refunds, chargebacks, right? There should be a TAT compliance as well. Okay. Security and risk management policies should also be clearly defined here. There should be having a board approved IT and security policy, annual cyber audits, right? And a lot more things I can say for the security and risk management. Why? Because you're playing with tech and money. So definitely you need to have a good compliance. Some of the general directions are: payment aggregators shall aggregate the funds only for contracted merchants. Let's suppose if I am a payment aggregator, I can take funds, I can aggregate funds on behalf of the contracted merchants as well. Let's suppose there is a non-contracted merchant. As of now, we don't have any kind of contract. I cannot receive any kind of payment on behalf of the non-contract merchants. Payment aggregators cannot do marketplace business. Now we won't be doing the marketplace business. What we are doing is we are just facilitating the transactions for the marketplace business, right? Amazon won't be getting into, payment aggregator. Let's suppose if I am a payment aggregator, I cannot open a platform like Amazon, right? So I won't be getting into the business of the marketplace. Why? Because I'm a payment aggregator. You need to follow the merchant discount rates as well. What is merchant discount rates? How much you are charging from the shopkeeper, right? How much you are charging from the merchants. So there is a particular merchant discount rate rules. You need to follow them as well, right? You need to, obviously, if you are facilitating a transaction, let's suppose I am receiving 1000 from customers and I am aggregating on the behalf of the merchant, I'll be obviously charging a fees from the merchant. And whenever you are making a credit card payment or any card payment, the merchant won't get full amount, right? A particular fees is being deducted, and that's what the fees of payment aggregator is, right? No limits on the transaction amount by the payment aggregator. As a payment aggregator, I won't be imposing any kind of limit, but the bank will be imposing any kind of limit. Bank can definitely impose the limit. I won't be imposing any kind of limit. Plus, no ATM pin for the card not present transaction. I won't be asking for the ATM pins here. If the card is not present, I cannot take the ATM pin. Refund to the original payment method unless instructed otherwise. If I want to refund the money, I will be doing it to the original payment method only, right? From where the payment has originated. Now the payment gateways, they are not at all in the scope of this guideline, but they are recommended to follow at least the baseline guidelines. Some of the baseline guidelines, if they are following, that's very well for them as well, right? That's a good compliance for the payment gateways as well. Specific to the payment aggregator cross-border. Now if I am a payment aggregator, that too, I am involved in the cross-border transaction. So I need to separate. The funds need to be kept in separate. Whatever inward transactions I am having, whatever outward transactions I am having, both should be separate, right? Both the funds should be separate. Maximum per transaction limit should be 25 lakh. Okay, maximum per transaction limit is 25 lakh here. Settlement can be through AD category 1 bank only. No foreign currency purchase or sales except any kind of AD bank. If I am a AD bank, definitely I can purchase and sell foreign currency, but not otherwise, right? I need to comply with the disclosures as well. Settlement is non-INR allowed only for directly onboarded Indian exporters. right? So these are basic conditions, and I do have some reporting requirements as well, like monthly, quarterly, annually, and any kind of event based report can also be there. They have been stated in the annexure 1, right? What you need to remember here is the very first thing, inward and outward funds need to be separately maintained, plus the maximum transaction limit is 25 lakhs. So these 2 points are very important. Okay, these 2 points are very important here, right? I have pasted the screenshots of the circular as well, and you can see that whatever things we have covered here all are there in your circular, right? So I have just covered it in a very crisp manner, so for the best understanding, exam oriented understanding for your upcoming RBI Grade B exam. When I talk about the due diligence, obviously we do have a RBI master direction on KYC 2016. You need to follow that. You need to if you are retrieving any kind of KYC, you can do it via CKYC, Central KYC Registry. If it is unavailable, then obviously a separate method is also there to have the KYC of the merchant, right? So all these things are mostly process oriented. There is a criteria as well for small merchants, like having a turnover of less than 40 lakhs or exports of less than 5 lakhs. There is a simplified due diligence criteria as well, right? That can be done via form 16 or PAN, plus the CPV, right? Physical verification that we just discussed. You need to continuously monitor the merchant's transaction for consistency and with the business profile, like what is the business profile of the merchants and whatever transactions are going on, you need to definitely monitor the consistency. If you are a non-bank payment aggregator, you need to register with the FIUIND. Okay, you need to get yourself registered with the FIUIND. Now that point is also important. This is also important. Okay. The merchants that are onboarded before 31st 2025 must be KYC compliant by the next year. So they have given you 1 year to comply with the KYC guidelines is what I can say, right? Responsibilities of the acquiring bank. So they have given some of the responsibilities as well of the acquiring bank. You can definitely read it later on. Most of the things are process oriented only. KYC thing we already discussed, right? If you have onboarded any kind of merchant, then you need to do the KYC. If you have onboarded before 31st December 2025, you need to do the KYC by 1st of January 2026, right? So that's the requirement basically. That's the requirement. Then there is settlement and escrow account as well. What is a escrow account? A third party account I can say, which is facilitating the transaction. So non-bank payment aggregator must maintain an escrow account. If you are a non-bank payment aggregator, you need to maintain a escrow account. That too with the scheduled commercial bank, domestic scheduled commercial bank, or a AD category 1 bank. So that's fine if you are maintaining an escrow account with the scheduled commercial bank or a AD 1 bank, right? You need to obtain 2 special accounts. You need to open 2 special accounts, obviously for the inward collection and for the outward collection that we already discussed here, right? That we already discussed that you need to have 2 accounts for inward, separate for inward and separate for the outward as well. The escrow accounts cannot be used for the COD transactions. The cash on delivery transactions should not be a part of the escrow account. Separate account for both your domestic PA. Let's suppose if you are a domestic PA plus you are a cross-border PA as well. So you need to have separate accounts for both. You need to have separate accounts for both. You cannot make all the transactions in a combined account, right? Auditor certification is also required, and escrow balance is counted as NDTL, net demand and time liabilities for the banks, right? Now here we are having a chart format in the circular itself. So I have pasted this particular chart from the circular itself. So escrow account requirement, if it's a domestic escrow account, then you can open it with the SCBs. For inward collection, you can open it with the SCBs or the authorized dealer category 1. For outward, again you can go ahead with the authorized category dealer 1 SCB. Okay, and obviously if it's a domestic, then it will be in the INR only. If it's outward, then it will be an INR. But if it is a inward account, separate account for the INR, and in case if you are receiving money in non-INR currencies like dollars or pounds or any other currency, then separate account is again required here, right? So they have given you this in the particular chart format for each and everything. So just have a quick reading regarding this chart, right? So the most important thing, I have also mentioned the general guidelines also. Most of the things in this particular circular in the master direction are more of process oriented rather than limit based. Okay. For the examination perspective, what you need to do is you need to study limit based more than the process based, right? So here we can see some of the important pointers as well. So the capital requirements, the deadline timelines, per transaction limit. I have summarized each and everything for you guys in this particular important pointers here. Okay. So definitely if you are going ahead for the exam oriented preparation purpose, so definitely I will advise you guys to first read the crux of the particular circular by reading the timelines, by reading the limit specific things, right? And then once you are done with that, you can again go to the procedure part as well. I have summarized the annexure part as well for you guys, both the annexure 3, there are 2 annexures here. So I have summarized the annexures here as well, but first I will advise you guys to please go with the limits before going to the procedural part. The procedural part is very, very simple. You can definitely have a quick reading, but first try to cover limits. Like I personally feel that this particular limit of capital requirement can be very, very important, right? This can be very, very important. Again, this per transaction, maximum per transaction limit is important. You need to obtain 2 accounts. You need to open 2 accounts, inward account separate, outward account separate, right? So these things can definitely be important for your examination. Please cover the limit based things in a complete manner is what I can say. Don't leave any kind of limit. Plus this date is also important of KYC. Okay. And do remember the applicability of this particular circular. It is applicable effective immediately. There is no specific date. It is effective immediately. And this is the applicability. All the banks, non-bank payment aggregators, authorized banks, AD banks, authorized dealer banks, and scheduled commercial banks who are engaged in the payment aggregator entity, who are engaged in the PA entity business, need to comply with this particular circular. Okay guys, so thank you so much. That's it for my end, or from my end for today. Thank you so much for watching the video. In case of any kind of query, you can always reach out to me. Okay. So guys, we are also offering you a test readiness program. So here you need to answer 10 questions and you can definitely get a personalized report card as well, and some of the preparation recommendation as well from our expert team of Oliveboard. And you can give the free previous year question paper as well. Link is there in the description. 2024 PYQ is completely free of cost. Okay guys, thank you so much. Bye bye. Take care.